The one thing about Bill is that he takes the world seriously. He takes this country seriously. He takes patriotism seriously, but he doesn't take himself that seriously. To understand Bill, you have to understand Jill and the relationship between them. She's the glue. She's the one that made possible all of the moves that he's made in life and in the course of raising 5 children. And it's always been Jill, and she also is an intellectual heavyweight in her own right. One thing about Jill is she gets to the heart of an issue very quickly. She's got a very incisive mind. It's quite acute. She's been in conversations way ahead of her time and how she approached issues and how she thought they would be solved and how they should be addressed. She is an inspiration for him and someone that he shares issues with. So when you think about it, you can't think of Bill alone. You've got to think of Bill and Jill. Bill's career following law school, he started practice with the family and then almost immediately ran for the state legislature and became the Speaker of the Indiana House quickly. So both the scale and the intelligence and the passion of the man burns through, and that's how you go very quickly from a private citizen and a law student to a leadership role in government. He ran for the Senate at a very difficult time against Birch Bayh. He didn't win, but he came very, very close to winning. And then he went into the executive branch. And Bill's career has followed a public service orientation all the way through. And it's that public service that tells you about a quality you might not immediately recognize, which is his patriotism. He is a deeply profound patriot. Bill has read all the history of the Constitution. He's read a biography of every president of the United States. Can you imagine staying awake through a Millard Fillmore biography?
Downtown St. Louis was so blacked out by a dense fog and smoke that visibility was limited to 50 yards.
Of the 41 industries discharging directly into the Cuyahoga, 19 bear the onus of having been singled out for inadequately treating their wastes.
Everybody is downwind or downstream of somebody else.
Los Angeles has been plagued with a smog which irritates the eyes.
When we started back in 1970, the newspapers, television, radio was so negative. Everything was falling apart. What's happening to the rivers that catch on fire? Why is it difficult to see the mountains in Denver or people, for that matter, in Los Angeles? EPA started out responsive to the public demand that something be done to clean up the environment and protect their health.
He's a strong believer in rational systems and the rule of law, and it all fits a pattern, and that's why he was so successful at the Environmental Protection Agency, because he had this appreciation for the outdoors and for nature and for the kind of world that we want to live in. At the same time, he knew there has to be rules in order to make that work. Bill demonstrated how democracy should work. I mean, when he was confronted with the request from the White House to fire the Watergate prosecutor, first Elliot Richardson and then Bill said that in conscience we can't do that. And so his conscience was the controlling factor, and that's what makes democracy work. And you can have all the laws, and he's a profound believer in the laws, but unless you bring that personal element of your values into it, it doesn't work. The Ruckelshaus Center is another element of that. It's a form of public service, of public commitment, persuading the University of Washington and Washington State to allow them to proceed with something that is a way of settling disputes, of bringing rational elements into play.
That's where the role of the universities comes in. That's where the role of these processes that define collaboration can come in, because you really are doing your job as a legislator, for instance, if you're willing to collaborate, willing to compromise. And that's such a bad word today with so many people in the legislature that it's hard to do. I guess I'm most proud of the fact that I'm still willing to do that, because I don't think you get problems solved if you insist it's your way or the highway. People just won't solve them.
All the things we do in life, public service is the most important thing. And Bill, I'm sure, would acknowledge that. Take all of the high points of his life. When he was in public service, he was most fulfilled and he was doing the most important things for his country.
The Honorable William D. Ruckelshaus.
One of the most honored things that can be awarded in this country is the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And President Barack Obama selected Bill as one of the awardees of it, and in recognition of his multifaceted career.
There are problems which we ought to be able to solve with reasonable compromises. And we're having a terrible time doing it. So looking for different ways to make our democracy work is very important. And using the principles of collaborative decision-making, we've found that you can move some pretty knotty problems forward and actually solve them.
I don't think Bill will ever finish all the things that he wants to do in life. He's done so much, but there's still things that he thinks about that he'd like to get done and like to do. So there's a lot of work left to be done.